What's up, guys? David here with Bittle MCOM. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going over in Premiere Pro how to make a vertical video, a up and down YouTube short or a TikTok video. How do you make those things in Premiere? Let's jump in and I'll show you. Bittle MCOM. So first things first, I've got Premiere pulled up right here. I'm going to go ahead and open a new project. Then I'm going to name it whatever I want, vertical video. Then I'm just going to hit create. Now I've got my regular Premiere Pro setup here, but what I'm going to do makes it a little bit easier. If you're not really familiar with Premiere, check out some of my other tutorials on the regular general setup of Premiere for editing typical videos, but this is going to be a vertical video, so I'm going to change the layout. If I go to this icon right here, click that button, look for the tab that says vertical. I'm going to select it. Now I have a vertical window pane for editing a video that has the aspect ratio that is up and down rather than horizontal, the landscape that we're used to seeing. So let's get started. Now my project bin is up here on the top left in this vertical layout. I'm going to create a few new folders so we keep our project nice and organized. I'd recommend doing this every time because we do want to keep this nice and neat. If I click this little folder file right here, it's a new bin file. It will create a new folder for me, and then I can put content in it. So I'm going to click it. I'm going to rename this footage, and I'm going to select out of it. Now I'm going to click it again. I'm going to name this one music. Select out of it again. I'm going to click it one more time, and I'm going to put GFX because I have one graphic that I'm going to use in this. I would recommend creating some bins before you get started on any new project, and that way it'll help keep everything nice and neat. So now to import footage, let's go ahead and import our footage first, or I should say import our elements. Let's import the footage first. I can click on this bin that I've created, right click on it, go to import. It'll pull up on, I'm using a Mac, so it pulls up Finder. If you're using a Windows PC, it'll work exactly the same way. It will just pull up your file folder system. All right, so now I need to pick what I want to go into my footage bin. I know it's this one right here. That's the vertical footage with color. This is a pre-edited video I've made. I'm just going to show you how to actually put the pieces of the puzzle together in Premiere. So I'm going to go ahead and import that. There you can see it right in the bin. So now I'm going to put some music in. So I'm going to go ahead and import through the music bin. And right where it says music, I'm going to throw that in. Now, last thing, my graphic. I'm going to click on the graphic bin, right click on it, import. Now I want to import this that says LC vertical logo animation. Logo animation, click import. Now I've got all of my elements that I'll need to create a vertical video. So first thing is first. I need to create a sequence that has a vertical aspect ratio. Now, I could take the footage that I have that's already vertical, and I could click and drag it into my timeline. When I release it, it creates a very unflattering picture. Let's pick a different one. It creates a vertical aspect ratio for this footage because it's matching the source footage, which was already vertical. Let's not do that. Let's make it from scratch so we know how we're doing it and what we're doing. I'm going to click out of all my folders and I'm going to create a new bin that's called sequence. This way I can keep any future sequences I have that might be vertical or part of this project in a nice and tidy bin because we want to keep everything nice and neat. So in my sequence bin, I'm going to click it. I'm going to click this little, it looks like a Post-it note with the edge folded over. It's a new item button. I'm going to click it, and then I want to click where it says sequence. Now that I've got this pulled up, there's a billion presets here for me to look through. Well, this is going to be an HD video, so I can leave it at that. Click this preset, maybe this 1080p, 30 frames per second, and go with that. But I do need to change something in order for it to be a vertical aspect. So I'm going to go to settings. And if you look here, if you jump down to video, right at the top is what we're looking at. We've probably all heard of 16:9. It's kind of what our phones do and what movies are, and now what our high-definition televisions are set at. 16:9. It's that landscape view, and that's what we watch movies on. That's not vertical, that's horizontal. So all I have to do to make it vertical is reverse these two numbers. 1920 by 1080. I'm going to make this 1080 by 1920. Now when I tab, my aspect ratio is opposite. It's no longer 16:9, it's 9:16. So when I hit OK, well, I'll name my sequence first. Video. When I hit OK, now I've got a vertical sequence in my timeline. There we go. Now it's set up. Let's start stacking the pieces together. This should go pretty quickly. First, I will start with my footage, which I'll click and drag in. and I'll just slap it right about here. So now let's take a look. There it is. It fits nicely in the vertical frame. That's all the footage I shot with the dialogue. Let's listen to some playback. Throughout the years, my studio has undergone a lot of different changes. It's perfect. Okay, so now we've got that in there. Let's go ahead and throw our graphic in, because I know I want the graphic at the beginning of this video, right at the lead, probably right into this cut point where I have that little transition. So that's where I want my graphic to end. So if I go up here and I grab the graphic, you can see, if you're used to using Premiere Pro, maybe you're not, let me explain real quick. These little icons next to all of my different elements that are in Premiere, they mean different things. Up at the top, you see this one. That means it's a sequence. This next one here, it has two. There's a little purple film strip in the back and then a waveform that's green in the front. That means this has video and audio attached to whatever that is. The graphic also has that too. Then if you go down to music, there's no video attached to the music. It's just music. So on my graphic, I don't need audio. I just need the imagery. So if I double click this, now it pulls up a preview pane, or the preview monitor where my program monitor was. So now if I scrub through this, there's my graphic with no audio. If I click on this little sound wave down here, it shows me what audio is there. There's nothing there. It just happens to be the way I exported this graphic had audio attached to it. So I don't need that. If I just want the video, if I just want the visual, all I have to do is click this little film strip at the bottom, click and drag it onto my timeline, and it won't pull that audio with it. And there, I'll snap it up to the front, and it lines up nice and neat. And I'll switch over to my program monitor by clicking through these tabs. There's my preview. There's my program. So there, you see the graphics in at the bottom, and I want it to stop right where my playhead is. So I'll click, a little red bracketed arrow appears, and I'll drag it over. Boom. There it is. Now it stops right at that transition point. Let's listen and look. My name's David. Welcome to Studio 1B. Throughout the years, okay, that was pretty cool. All right, so now we have the graphic in at the lead where we want it to be. Now let's throw a title on this. This is about my studio. I call it Studio 1B. We're going to add that graphic on here. Throughout the years, my studio has undergone a lot of different changes. We'll probably put it right there where I'm kind of panning from left to right. So we'll move the playhead at the point where it fades in and it's clear again through that transition. Now, if I want to add a simple graphic, I can go down to this type tool. And if I click it, it switches my cursor from, I have to pull it over in the program monitor. If I put it over here, now it's a cursor. And anywhere I click in this, it will let me type text. So if I click right about here, I can type out Studio 1B. But it's ugly, right? It doesn't look very nice. Studio 1B is just kind of generic and it's not in a very good place. I need to fix that. So if you go back to our timeline, we notice this little pink text box has appeared. So this is a new element on our timeline. It's just representing the Studio 1B text we just typed in. So now what I need to do is I'm going to select it. Then I'm going to go to either my effects control panel and adjust my text under the text tab. And I want to change its font, so let me go ahead and highlight all it, and I'll switch it to Gotham. I like Gotham just fine. We'll go with Gotham Black. And now it looks a lot better. Let me go ahead and throw some italicized on it. Italicization? I don't know. Anyway, I might even increase its size a little bit. Let me go ahead and do that. That looks a little bit better. I want to have this as centered as close as I can. I'm not really worried about it being perfect right now. I'll just kind of eyeball it by switching to my selection tool, and then I'll grab it and I'll put it, I've got the little guide. It'll let me put it in the dead center left to right. Maybe we'll just go about a third down on the screen. That looks okay. Why don't we change the color of it so it stands out from the background a little bit? So while I've got it still selected in my timeline, I'll go down here to fill and I'll click the little white box. And now it gives me the option to change the color of that text. I can change it to anything I want. So I'll change it to my favorite color. EFB 21E is athletic gold. I like it. Hit OK. Now it kind of matches the tone of the video a little bit better. It looks a little nicer. Still not great and not easy to see. Let's do one more thing to make it pop out a little bit. So I'm going to select this little button again, and I'm going to go to Effects. There it is. Click Effects. I'm going to type in Drop Shadow because I know that's what I'm looking at or what I'm looking for. I'm going to click it, drag it onto my text layer, let it go. Now, let me go back to the tab I was on so we have a better view of it again. And you'll see there's a teeny little shadow added on it now because I added the effect drop shadow. So I can increase the opacity on that. It'll make it darker. I can even increase the softness and it'll kind of spread it out a little. So it's kind of one of those things where it's popping out more, but you can't really tell why. And it's because we put this drop shadow on it, put a nice feather on it, and it just stands away, kind of adds some dimension to the text away from the video. Let's look at the playback. Throughout the years, my studio has undergone a lot of different changes. It started out in the corner of my bedroom. Perfect. Now I need to get to a point where I want that to go away. So let's go to the next transition right before we start getting blurry. And I'll click and drag it out. And that's the cool thing about a text layer. I can make it any length that I want, and it can go through the whole course of the video if I want, or just right to that next transition point, which I really like. Okay, so now we've got a logo and an animation we've added. So now let's add some music. Just keep in mind, anything under this gray bar is sound. Anything above this big gray line is something you would see. A graphic, a text logo, or any kind of animation like that, that will all be above that line. Any video, anything, pictures, whatever. Sound, any sound, will be below that line. So I'll click and drag my music onto the bottom of this. We'll zoom it in a little, and now we'll have some playback. My name's David. Welcome to Studio 1B. Throughout the years, my studio has undergone a lot. So now we have a cool, nicely mixed little thing on there. One last trick I'm going to show you to make this a little cleaner and a little cooler, and then we'll show you how to export. Now, we have the logo coming in at the front. Welcome to Studio. I want it also, as we close the video, on the end. Really good and get things done really quickly. Thanks. So right at that transition right there where it fades back in and the shot changes, we'll go to the point where it is visible. Now I'm going to click on this on the graphic layer that we had put at the beginning. I'm going to click on it. Now I'm going to hit Alt or Option on a Mac. I'm going to click, drag, and it makes a duplicate. So if I just drag it to the end, right where my playhead is, and I can just select with my little red grabber bar and drag it over. Then, now I've got this cool little logo animation at the end. Let's look at it. And really quickly. Thanks for touring Studio 1B with me. I'll catch you guys next time. Cool. So now it's a lot cleaner than it was. Let me show you one more thing before we export. Let me pull my music bed back out. There's a little tail on the end of the music bed. Really quickly. Thanks for touring Studio 1B with me. I'll catch you guys next time. Okay. So I want this to end right when my video ends so my export isn't more difficult for me, so I can export all of it at the same time code as each other. So if I zoom in on this and I can expand this little audio file here by dragging down on the line under it. So now I want it to end right here. Well, you saw me a moment ago with the red bracketed arrow, just drag it over, and that works great. But let me show you a different way to do it, and this is going to be very helpful when you're editing a lot of different videos, specifically B-roll and things like that. I have something on the left side here called the razor tool. I can get to it by hitting the letter C or just clicking the image of the razor. Now, anywhere that I place it in my timeline on any element where I click, it will create a cut point. So if I just go right to this playhead, click cut, then switch back to my selection tool by V or hitting that arrow. Now I can take this and hit delete, highlight all this if I want, hit delete. Now it makes it the perfect length. So this is really good for cutting out pieces of audio, pieces of video, pieces of graphics, anything that you want. Use the cut tool. You'll be using it a lot. The razor tool, I should say. Okay, that's how you make a cut. Now, we need to export this thing. Since I don't have this all pulled over to the far left, let's add an in and out point so we know exactly, or so Premiere knows exactly where we want it to begin our export. So if I click my playhead here and I hit the letter I for in, then I have a little, you can kind of see it, a little blue bracket right there. I'm going to click it when that red bracket appears, drag it to the front of my footage. Now I'll take my playhead and move it towards somewhere towards the end. That's probably good. Hit the letter O for out. Now you see I have another little bracket. Let me snap it on the end and it's perfect. So now this little highlighted area here, that is what I am telling Premiere Pro. That is the area that I want it to export. It's my in to out point, my in and out. If I want to export, I either hit Command or Control M or just click the export button up here. It'll take me to my export window. Let's go through a couple things real quickly and then we'll get a good clean export and you can export this vertical video this way anytime you want. So we'll leave it named vertical video, but I'll change the location. I'll click on this little blue location folder. It'll pull up somewhere, and I'll just save it right to my desktop. Now it's going to save vertical video, MP4 file. I'm going to hit save. Now let's double check something. Now, under preset, it's set as custom right now. Yours might be set to something different. We need to change that to match source, adaptive high bitrate. That will give me my best quality because it's matching my source quality. Now, under format, if you're posting to YouTube or TikTok or some online medium, or you want to email this to somebody, you'll want to use H.264. That's a codec for online compressed video without losing a lot of the quality. One last thing we need to do. Over on the right, you'll see this range selector here. It's probably defaulted on yours to say entire source if this is your first time using Premiere Pro. Now, what we want to do here, because we selected in and out points, we want to switch it to source in to out. That way, it will export what we selected in our in to out point. If you don't select that, you'll have a lot of dead space at the front unless you had all your footage right at the beginning of your sequence, which we didn't. So we need to do it in to out. So now this is all set up how we want it. All I have to do is hit export. Now, as this process runs, mine's going to take a little bit for some reason, hopefully not too long. As this process runs and the export is complete, it is going to look crystal clear, 1080p. It's just going to be a 9:16 aspect ratio, so I can throw it on YouTube, TikTok, whatever I want, and I'll join the other billions of people making vertical videos. My name's David. Welcome to Studio 1B. Throughout the years, my studio has undergone a lot of different changes. It started out in the corner of my bedroom with a laptop, a mic stand, and this microphone. But as my business started to grow, I was able to add more pieces to my toolkit. From sound treatment on the wall to my preamp, the DBX286S, which is relatively cheap as far as preamps go, all the way to my favorite piece of equipment in the studio, my Shuttle Pro V2. All of these tools allow me to do my commercial voiceover, my commercial editing, much quicker, much more efficiently, and make it sound better. Some things have been here from the start. Not much to it, but throughout the years, I have amassed a pretty nice collection of things that have helped me sound really good and get things done really quickly. Thanks for touring Studio 1B with me. I'll catch you guys next time. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. Call, text, or email if you know me. If not, leave them down in the comments. Thanks for watching.